Hi, this is John Westfall, and I'm going to walk you through how to set up a survey in LimeSurvey using the survey library that we've assembled as part of the downloadable content for this paper. This is the survey library materials folder. It's on the GitHub repository. You'll notice it has a lot of the original PDFs that were assembled from around the internet and original pieces of information that you would need in order to know how to score these scales. But really, the only file that you'll need in order to get up and running is the LimeSurvey export file, which has a couple of different things. This is the group file for demographics, and then we have a file in here that is the actual survey, this LimeSurvey 345859. So let's see how we actually import that. So I'm going to open up a web browser. I'm just using Firefox, although this will work fine in any web browser that you have. And I'm going to go to my LimeSurvey administration page. Give it a moment to log in. Remember, LimeSurvey has two different pages you can go to. You can go to the default page that'll show all available surveys, and you can then go to the administration page and log in to actually administer and add surveys. So I've now logged in. It tells me my screen size is too small. If you get that, that's not usually an issue. The LimeSurvey administration page typically will run just fine, so you can just close that out. I'm going to go to create a new survey and then import, browse, and then I will find that LimeSurvey 345859 file, hit open, and hit import survey. Give it a few moments. It is a pretty big survey by LimeSurvey standards, and you'll see why in a moment when we get it up and displayed. Okay, so it's telling me that it's imported the survey. It's got all the content there, 136 questions, etc. So I'll click Go to Survey. And over here on the left side, LimeSurvey gives me a number of settings. We'll walk through a couple of these. I would encourage you to explore these on your own. And the Structure tab, if you click on that, will actually show you all of the question groups. And this is where you'll see we've got a question group for each one of the scales. If I go into that question group, some of them are very simple question groups. They have one question in them. The whole scale was able to fit on what LimeSurvey calls an array question. So if I'm on the BIS and I go to that one question, I can actually hit preview question, and you'll see what the respondent of the survey would see, which is basically the entire scale as one big array that they can click on. And of course, LimeSurvey tells me this survey is not currently active, just so I know that I'm not actually adding anything to the database. This survey library has a couple of unique components to it. The first is that down at the bottom here you'll see this area called calculation. It's a survey group that is kind of way at the bottom of the screen right now. I'll scroll up so you can see it. These questions aren't actual questions. They are scoring questions. So if I go to the BIS overall question here and I load that up, you'll see, first of all, there's a thing here that says always hide this question with the number 1 at the bottom. That tells LimeSurvey that don't actually show this to participants because they don't need to see it. It's actually a little behind the scenes equation that is calculating the overall BIS score. And you'll notice that some of these are reverse scored, so that's why the value is subtracted out of 5 and then the absolute value is taken so that you get the reverse scoring, and it adds them all together. This is great because it means when you download this data from LimeSurvey, you don't have to code the scoring in SPSS or R or whatever you're using. It's right there. And it's stored in a code called BIS overall. And that leads to the second nice thing about this survey, and that is you can actually show these pieces of information to the respondents. So if you're using this in a class, you'll see that there's a reporting option down here. It's just an example of what you could do. So say I was giving one of the scales here and I wanted to actually show the class what their value was at the end of the time they took it. And you can see you can actually just put the value right into the question. In fact, if I go to edit this question, say I want to show the overall BIS score, I can do that, and then I can use this little button here that looks like something that says placeholder fields. Scroll down, find that this score overall. There it is right there. Hit OK and save and close. And now I've inserted that particular item in. This survey library, the nice thing about it is you can delete out any surveys you don't need. You can duplicate. You can add as many demographics in as you want. And when you're done, all you have to do is activate the survey. So if I go back over to settings and choose overview, there's an option on here for activate this survey. By default, when I activate it, it's going to allow me to add a few pieces of information in. Do I want to anonymize my responses? Do I want to save IP addresses? Do I want to save the timings, how long people took on each question? So you can modify those as you want. Now that I've saved and activated it, it's going to ask me, do you want to turn it into a closed access survey? Right now it's open access, which means anyone that has the URL can go there and take it. But if I actually want to limit this to a group of participants, then I'll want to switch it to closed access mode. And we'll talk a little bit more in another video about using closed access mode. In fact, I'll actually demonstrate this along with an ORSEE or ORSI experiment and show how you can manage those two together, which is kind of a cool feature. But right now we'll say that this was just going to be an open access survey, and that's all we needed. So that is a quick video on how you would import the survey library. Like I said, you can go through and delete it out. You can make copies of it, do whatever you want to do with that. But all the resources you need, all these resources that we've compiled from the web and put in the GitHub repository, you've got what you need in order to make this and get it up and running today. And then if you have your own scales to put in, you've got some examples of how those scales look when they're put in so that you can manage that on your own without having to totally figure it out on your own. You've got some guidance by just looking at how we've set up the scales that are in there. Next in this series, we'll talk about closed access mode and ORSI, and I look forward to talking to you then.